All right, here we are. The intro's a little bit long. I may have to trim it down just a hair. But yeah, we're back. I'm Jason Crawford with CCS Marketing, the creative director. We have Chris Lawson with us as well, CCS Marketing. Chris, VP, right? So we were
VP of everything.
of everything, man. Like you name it,
Yeah,
he's VP of
like
it.
yep. I'm great at taking the trash out too, bro. Like I swear. I
Look, who was it that was
promise you
talking
I am.
about the hiring? Um, Even the janitor putting care into hiring that position and doing that job. I don't remember. It was like Henry
Right.
Ford or
It's
one of
important.
those old. It was one of those like older stories that you hear about like the care and
Hmm.
dedication of everything that you do, even if you're sweeping kind of thing. Anyway,
It all matters. It
it
all
does.
matters. So
It does.
yep.
So we have put together a series of topics, and we try to roll through, each of them relatively soon. And we're we picked for today. The topic that we picked was setting expectations and pacing yourself. And Chris was like, "Yeah, I want to talk about that one. It applies to some other things we've even talked about on the podcast before, or not podcast. I don't know. We call this a podcast or our recordings, whatever they'll be.
It's a conversation. It's it's
Yeah,
it's just
conversation.
real stuff. It's real stuff that people want to hear without the fluff. It's
Yeah,
just real. Like this is what really goes on. Not trying to sell you anything. Just hey, these just come from conversations that we have with real people who run real businesses or who are in real positions to make a difference in a company.
yeah,
So this is just a culmination of conversations that we've had that we're putting on camera.
absolutely. All right, so setting expectations and pacing yourself. Where did you want to go with this? What are your thoughts?
I mean, it's so broad, but it's so narrow at the same time. I
It
mean, I,
is.
I know it's like, oh yeah, we're going to go this direction, and we're going.
Mm-hmm.
In many cases, it seems simple. Like, and if I always, start with the head of the snake. If you're the leader of a company, or if you're the leader of your department, yeah, that seems easy. But, have you communicated, those expectations along the way with your team, and have they brought into it? And so I think in some cases we get so caught up in, yeah, I know where we're going, I know what we're doing, but does everyone else? And I think that becomes so critical. When I say everyone else, I'll always look at expectations for business that it's broad. So it should be all your stakeholders. Hey, you know where you're going, but do your customers know where you're going?
Yeah.
Do your employees know where you're going? Do your vendors know where you're going? Have you communicated that to them? And that becomes so important because what happens is those stakeholders, within your organization, within or outside of the organization, once you tell them where you're going, I guarantee they're going to be able to provide so much insight as to how to get there. And
Mm-hmm.
it's because they're doing it every single day. They're seeing what's going on. You may not be seeing it,
Yep.
but because they're seeing it, they're going to be able to provide you some feedback that I'm going to call them boots on the ground, feet on the street, whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
No, they may be able to provide feedback that you don't have. So whenever you decide or your company decides to change direction, or hey, we're going this way, make sure you understand who all is impacted by it,
Mm-hmm.
have the conversation with them, and then you got to have that with them conversation. What's in it for me? So
Mm-hmm.
what's in it for them? Because people don't like change. And
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just human nature. People don't like change. And why that's relevant today. Okay, what the hot topic right now is, all right, we're going through a huge pandemic. It was okay, everyone was going to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now everyone's working from home.
Mm-hmm.
Now companies are like, come back to work. And they're not necessarily telling people why they need to come back. Well, because the CEO said that you need to. If you can't explain what's in it for someone to come back to work now that they've gotten comfortable working from home, you're not going to get the buy-in.
Yeah.
You're going to get pushback.
Yeah.
So, that's just one example, but you got to get people on the bus, and they need to understand why it's important. And then you also have to motivate and say, hey, what's in it for you? This is what's in it for you.
Yeah.
So,
And that's the setting
that's
expectations part, right? It's funny
yeah,
because
absolutely.
you took this in a direction I wasn't even thinking, and I think that's one of
I
the
bet.
beautiful things about taking a topic and collaborating on the subject
Right,
rather than
right,
just like rolling
right,
off on a monologue. But
right.
I thought of this subject whenever I was working with a real estate agent, and I was talking to him. He doesn't have his website set up, and we was talking about SEO, and he was like, how much is this going to cost me? And I was like, well, that depends
Mm-hmm,
on how aggressive you want to be, right? Like
mm-hmm.
if you're setting the expectation and the goal to be aggressive and get results really fast right out of the gate, then you're going to have
Mm-hmm.
to spend a whole lot more. But if your budget of
Right.
spending less is more important to you right now because there are other things that you really want to take care of, SEO is a long game. I was like, then you may want to make some of those shifts. And I was explaining to him that it really SEO is one of those things that it takes time to see results.
Yeah.
And I don't really like to
Yeah.
see people start off spending a ton of money
Yeah.
in SEO because they're not going to see the
Yeah.
results right away that they're like, I'm going to get number one. I'm going to be right up at the top. And I'm like, that's not
Yeah.
setting the
No, you're not.
expectation. Right. And
Right.
so pacing yourself and understanding how to set the proper expectations for what you're going into really determines whether or not you stay with it. They see the result, they see
Right.
the lack of results because they expected
Yep.
something that was unrealistic, and then they abandon it
Right.
altogether and then don't get any results simply
Yep.
because the expectations weren't set well and the pace wasn't kept. And that's really such an important thing, and it touches like so many other parts of our business, like what you were talking about with people coming back to work. The same thing can
Yep.
be true with like how companies have responded to the pandemic, as well as onboarding new employees or kind of re-onboarding existing employees back on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is a re-onboarding process because it's a whole new way of doing business.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, just to your point, your example of the real estate agent and my example of, getting all your stakeholders, it's all the same thing. Yours is a more specific example, but, if you want to talk specifically expectations when it comes to marketing, you have to do the same thing. And that really boils down to you have to set your goal, your 5 year, your 10 year. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you
Long
got to
term.
put money aside. Money aside. Hey, where do I want to be? This is my vision. This is where I really want to be. And then you reverse engineer that plan to get there. SEO is a part of the process. It may not be the first step in the process. It
Right.
is a part of it, though.
It
But
is.
unless you have that long-term plan laid out, the first thing you hear someone tell you is SEO. You're like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
But just like you said, that's not the first step. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and and I think,
It's got
what
to be
happens
there.
is it's got to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, for a new business just starting out, it's really not the first thing you should be focused on. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it should be in your plan. You should start budgeting for it. You should start figuring out, hey, what's my best call to action? How do I, you know, take best advantage of it?
Because you have to play that
But it's not
game
the first thing.
long term,
Exactly.
and it
Exactly.
has to be
So,
played. You don't really
yep.
have a choice if you want to be found. Like you
Right.
have to play that game. But how you play it depends on the goals that you've set and what you're expecting out of it. And so
Yep.
that's where I'm like, let's 30,000 foot back and then see what's most important to lump whatever kind of budget we have up front. This is why I love the conversation about budget. I know it makes a
Yep.
lot of clients uncomfortable at first because they're like, you're just going to try to
Cringe.
figure
Yeah.
out what my budget is and milk me.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
no, I would really like, it's like, do you ever eat a certain piece of the pizza like first? Like you look at the
Yeah.
pizza and you decide where you're going to start eating because it's got more toppings, It's like, it's that.
Absolutely.
It's that, right? I want to take out the piece that's going to be able to get the most out of it rather than having to like,
Well, a lot of, I mean, I'm going to stay specifically on like
yeah,
the SEO or, any sort of marketing service. It doesn't matter,
sure.
or any service that you're going to pay somebody to do. This is why having that expectation conversation up front is so important.
Oh yeah.
Because if you have a good partner, not a vendor, but
Yeah.
a good partner understands that their success should be tied into your success.
Right.
Okay. So that means that they're going to be incentivized by helping you grow. And if they're incentivized by helping you grow, then that starts with an honest conversation saying, hey, these are the things that you need to do first, second, and third, and making sure that the client understands that, we try to get some quick wins. These are the intermediate time wins, and these are our long-term wins. And you work towards each one of those. And
Yeah.
each one of those, the short, the intermediate, and the long-term wins, each one of those has its own plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's like peeling back the layers, and a lot of
Yeah.
people just, hey, give me the price and when can you get it done?
That's all they want.
But the ones who are successful, okay, the ones who are successful marketers, and I'm not
Mm-hmm.
talking about marketing companies, I'm talking about organizations who really see ROI on their marketing dollars.
Right.
They have those short, intermediate, and long-term plans, and they have goals for each one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's going to be up to you to determine, hey, what does success look like short term?
Yeah.
What does success look like intermediate term? What does success look like long term?
Yeah.
So you set the goal, set the expectation, communicate that to all your stakeholders, and as you're rolling that plan out, be prepared to make adjustments as you go, because obviously nothing is ever just going to go right the very first time we ever do it. And as the market changes, as our business environment changes,
Yeah.
we have to be prepared to adjust as necessary. So, and that's the last part of it, is making those adjustments.
Yeah, and I think so. I think that necessary part of it being the part where you have to make adjustments, that's never comfortable. It's always a conversation where it's like, we're not getting what we thought it would get, and that honestly, that statement goes all the way back to setting the expectations. I'm not saying that it's just because you set expectations you get 100% delivery on them, but managing them makes that difficult conversation a whole lot more comfortable when it has padded room within which to adjust. So it isn't meeting our expectations fully. So let's make some adjustments to get it there. Versus if you set the expectations, you promised the moon, or you just set unrealistic expectations, and then you come way off, then it's a very different conversation. And that goes for us, but that also goes for a lot of our clients. And so I just thought it would be a good, helpful topic for us to cover.
Well, I mean, I think out of everything we talk about, I mean, expectations boil down to one simple word: it's communication.
Ooh.
I mean, it boils down to one word, and that's communication.
Yeah.
So I've never been in the military or anything, but there's this military term that says, it, under communication, people lose their lives.
Mm.
When you over communicate, you save lives.
Mm.
Same thing can be applied to business. Businesses that under communicate, they die.
Yeah.
Businesses that over communicate, they survive.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no room to say, I didn't know, I didn't understand.
Right.
Okay, because as you're going along the process, you're making sure that everyone understands. Everyone understands what the roles, what the expectations are, what the rewards are, and what the consequences are if we don't meet these things. So there's no room for guessing, or there's that ugly gray area. So yeah, when you talk about expectation, it boils down to one word, and that's communication. I mean, those who do it well, they see their benefits. Those who don't, they see the detriment.
Yeah. Well, thank you I know that you're on the run, or on the go, not on the run. You're not on the run, but you're on the go
not
today.
On the go.
Yep. on the go. And I appreciate you taking the time to keep us consistent with our pace. And, we'll knock another one of these out. And I hope that those who are listening find it helpful and interesting. If not, can laugh at us.
You're going to have to find somebody more like, inviting than me to talk to all the time, because people are gonna get tired of hearing from me. So
but you bring such good so I think on the creative other side of the brain, and then you bring these other examples like the one you brought today, and I'm just like, I would never have thought of that one. I'm so glad you added that to the conversation. So anyway,
I mean, it's always a higher level there somewhere that and then we just break it down. So
all right, cool. Ooh. Well, I guess that's it for today then. We'll call that a wrap. Are we exiting stage left again?
If I exit stage left, I'm going to fall out the car. So I'm just going to say goodbye today.
All right. See you guys.
All right, man.